Hello, here's another great video from Montgomery Performance Horses. Here's a picture of he's a smart okie doc. In this picture, he was 3 years old when this picture was taken of him bridleless. Now here is a nephew of his, Jack's Little Step, stopping bridleless here at the ranch in Vail, Utah. And now we will be getting ready to see a filly named Chic, who is a 2-year-old, getting started by Jim Montgomery.
Well, here you see is we're basically sacking her out and getting her used to the whip, getting her used to the noise of the whip, and twirling it around her, touching her everywhere with it. So you have to spend an equal amount of time sensitizing a horse and desensitizing. You want to work on both sides of them, and horses get worried about things that move quickly and make noise. And so that would include a whip or any other kind of thing that you use. And so I do a thorough job of sacking her out with the whips and ropes and different types of things. You can see that I don't sneak around them. I touch them with it and bump them with it and throw it around them, and they get used to the noise that it makes, and tapping them with it. I want them not to be afraid of it, so that when you go to get on them or you have to pull them around or move them or do something, it doesn't scare them and then they react in a negative way that's going to make it hard for someone to trust them and ride them. So part of the stuff you're doing here is building trust and teaching her to follow a feel, which she's learning right here to follow that pressure of the rope around and yield to it. When you first start doing this with lots of colts, they fight against it, lean back and run backwards. But here I'm moving the rope back and forth, and then I'll just pull her around and ask her to come back around to me and follow the pressure of that rope. So now I'm going to sack her out with this tarp, and I'll kind of throw it around. I throw it up on her pretty aggressively. I do this with them for several days and get them used to this. And it makes noise and it covers them up. And this gets them used to when you're going to go put blankets on them, or when you're going to do a lot of things with them that you might have in your hand. Get them over worrying about stuff. So here we work on her stepping on it and flagging her out with a flag, and just get her to not worry about the flags or the noise of the flag. And we just rub them all over with it, kind of desensitize them. So there's a lot of desensitizing that goes on with the first part of breaking a colt. And if you don't do enough of it, then they're spooking at your equipment or at you, and you haven't taught them not to be worried about it enough. So you have to spend a fair amount of time desensitizing them. Here I'm pick up her foot, and I usually pick up a rock, or I'll use some of my equipment, tap on their feet. And I do this on all 4 feet. I don't show this right now, but I do it with all 4 feet, and then that gets them used to someone tapping on their feet, so when they can get shoed and stuff later. Here I ask her to yield and come down on one knee and give her foot away from me, and so that's more of just her taking her feet away from her here and there, so that they get used to the idea that I've taken their feet away from them and I haven't hurt them. And since they use their feet to escape, that's also the reason for hobbling them. Since they use their feet to escape, you take their feet away from them and sack them out with stuff, and then they learn that you haven't eaten them, so they start to learn to trust you, that you're trustworthy. So part of this is building a relationship with the horse and teaching them that you're a trustworthy person. You should never hobble a horse or take their foot away from them and then abuse them or be mean to them. This is all a way of mentally teaching them to yield to you yield to your equipment and not worry about it, because the things that they worry about, they either want to fight or escape from. So here I'm getting ready to saddle her. So we're sacking her out, and you see I don't sneak around them. I sack her out pretty strong on both sides and ask her to get used to the saddle pads and any equipment that you're going to use on them. You have to desensitize them with. I'll kind of show her this saddle. This is an old saddle I use, and it's usually the first one I saddle them with, and in case they do something silly and it doesn't hurt one of my good ones. And when they get to be trustworthy with the saddle, then I use my better saddles as I get closer to riding them. I'll throw the blanket on and off on both sides, throw the saddle on and off on both sides so that both sides get desensitized to it. I'll flip the stirrups up and back, and I don't do it soft. I want them to get used to the idea that that doesn't hurt them. No reason to worry about it. This is the reason why most of the horses that I train walk off the first ride that we ride them on, the first time we saddle them. I mean, it's not the case in every case, but most all of them just walk off pretty good and don't worry about it, because we did a thorough job of desensitizing them and getting them used to this. So we'll cinch her up. We throw the stirrups up and over, and so this kind of helps you as you get ready to get them started, that they're not cinchy, that they get used to all the different things you're going to use. And so this filly's doing a good job at this. I'm happy with how she's reacting. I always try to put a breast collar on so that the saddle don't roll. You're trying to avoid things that would scare them or get them upset. And they kind of look at you like you're in charge. You're supposed to be in charge and be a leader, and so you're in charge of taking care of them, and you want to have them trust you, so you don't want them to feel like that they got to worry about you or your equipment. So here I go back and forth and flip the saddles a little more, the stirrups a little more, and just get her used to all that. You can see she's pretty quiet with it. And of course, I do have her hobbled, and I'm going to take the hobbles off here shortly, and I'll just lead her off. Here I'm checking to see if she needs to be cinched up again, and she does. So I try not to cinch them up too tight all at once. So I'll do a series of tightening that cinch a little bit at a time, so they don't get cinchy or worried about it. Teaching them that they can trust me to keep them out of messes.
I know, right? Fired up, that's
So here I put my gloves back on just in case she does do something silly or feisty, and then I don't tear up my hands. But I'll go ahead and take the hobbles off, and you can see she just walked off. And she's done this several times, so this isn't, I think this is her second time of being saddled. And now I'm just gonna get her to yield her hip right here and move that out of the way and move out around. And of course she just moves right off and is loping, does a pretty good job. I call her back into me, and she did that part very well. So now as we're we're going to get her used to the bridle here, and so this is her first time getting the bridle, and so when you bridle them up, they're just a little bit fussy about it, getting put in their mouth the first time, and so I just try to be pretty gentle with their ears and let them get it figured out. This is part of just getting them bridle-wise to understand when something pulls on them and to follow their nose. And you see the first part when I pulled her around with the rope behind her and turned her around, she learned to follow a feel. And so that's what we're doing here is we'll just kind of bid her up and teach her to follow it. So I'm tying one rein up and I'll pull the other side around, pull her nose around and kind of make her yield her hip and teach her to kind of yield to that pressure. And horses lots of times want to go against pressure, so what we're trying to teach them to is yield to pressure. And so this is where we start to sensitize them. Before now we're desensitizing, and now we're starting to sensitize her. So we want her, when she feels that in the corner of her mouth, to bend around and yield, and then we want her to move a little bit so that she moves her feet, and if we cluck at her or talk to her, apply some stimulus of some kind, that she moves away from the bit, or follows the bit and moves away, doesn't fight it. So you can see her kind of yielding to it now and kind of getting it figured out. And here I'm asking her to just follow that and move around. Now I've got her bit up down between her legs, and I want her to go forward into the bridle and just yield to that and go both directions and do it, so that she learns to go forward and not fight it. And they have to learn, when you talk to them, to untrack.
We hope you enjoyed our video. Here we just have a couple pictures of Smokin' Gunner we wanted to share with you. He's an AQHA, APHA stallion. He was the APHA Reserve World Champion and NRHA Intermediate Open Top 10 finalist. It's just fun to see these horses through their videos and pictures from the ground up. Thank you.